Hey, I'm Matt, and thanks for clicking on another Mr. Maple Show video. Today we have a very requested video for you. It's general care of conifers.
Hey, I'm Tim, and we greatly appreciate you watching this video. We hope some of these tips really help you grow conifers. And if you find something great about this video, please like it, share it with your gardening friends. And if you really like conifers, make sure you're signed up for our weekly emails on MrMaple.com. We add a lot of neat conifers through the pipeline and our 10 at 10 weekly emails, and that's something you'll definitely want to check out.
At MrMaple.com, you definitely know us for our Japanese maples, but what you may not know is we do a wide range of conifers as well. Since updating our website in the last 3 years, we've added close to over 300 different varieties of conifers, so it's something we're passionate about as well. And we want to do this video to give you a little bit more confidence in your conifer gardening.
Now, conifers are amazing. They can provide some really unique interest in the winter landscape or in the landscape in general. Now, there are both deciduous conifers and evergreen conifers, and so there's some different variations for each sort of species and each different cultivar, but we're going to give you some general care tips that I really hope that you'll enjoy.
So there's a wide range of conifers, and with that comes a wide range of settings. So we're going to give you some different general care information that we hope will give you confidence in your conifer gardening.
Light is one of the most important things when it comes to conifers. And with that, there's different conifers for different light conditions. So that's one thing you really need to keep in mind is something like most pine trees are going to need more sunlight. Whenever you come to spruces, they're going to need more sunlight. Whenever you grow something, for instance, like a Leland cypress will do fantastic in the sunlight, but if you put it in the shade, it's going to be very sparse and will often fall over once it gets bigger.
Yes, most conifers are generally going to need at least 4 hours of sun a day, depending on the type. Now definitely look at your individual cultivar you're looking at and look at its light requirements for that species as well. We definitely do some like thujopsis dolobrata variegata and thujopsis dolobrata nana, which are more shade tolerant. But in general, conifers are going to want more sunlight. Now, there's a wide range of conifers out there, so there's certainly some that can definitely handle that shade, but be conscious of that light amount. That can definitely be a factor. One thing I notice a lot of times when someone says, hey, what's wrong with my small dwarf pine, it is that they're having too much shade. So it's actually getting too much shade and it's starting to needle drop and have more issues as a result of being, no sun exposure.
So if you're looking for a more shade-loving conifers, something like the thujopsis dolobrata, it's going to be fantastic for a more shade-loving environment. Something for partial shade would be something like the cryptomerias. They do great in partial shade. And when you're going towards more sunlight, always keep in mind that in your sunlight might be different from someone else's sunlight. So if you're growing a conifer in full sun down in the deep south of the United States, it's going to be very different from someone growing it in full sun in Oregon. It's going to be much more harsh, and you may have to give it a little protection from the hot afternoon sun depending on the conifer.
Yeah, so light requirements can definitely be a factor in your area. So you want to look at your individual area and kind of factor that into the equation. Now, we list a lot of different zones for conifers. We often talk about this in our videos, but I think it can't be understated enough in woody ornamentals. Plant zones are based on how cold a region gets, not how hot it gets. So we do some generalizations on that upper end of our zones there, because really what we're talking about are how cold resistant those roots in the overall plant are to how cold a zone that is. So check out your USDA hardiness zone. We actually have a video on that as well, but it's a great way to know what plants are going to acclimate to your winters.
With those zones, you want to keep in mind your heat and humidity. Even though you are rated for the cold tolerance of a conifer, you might be a little too hot and humid for the conifer to do well in your landscape and garden. So always keep that in mind if you're seeing issues with conifers in your landscape and garden.
So another factor to be conscious of when you're conifer gardening is the water amounts. Now this can vary a little bit per climate you're in as well. So if you're in a hotter region, it may require more than in a colder zone. But be conscious of the water amounts. Certainly one of the biggest mistakes I see made in conifer gardening is overwatering. Now that's a generalization for sure. We do some deciduous conifers like bald cypress that can grow in water. So that's a generalization for sure, but you definitely want to be conscious, as one of the biggest mistakes I see, especially with pines and a lot of our more popular evergreen conifers, are too wet.
Good drainage is the key for a lot of evergreen conifers. If you overwater a lot of conifers, what will end up happening is you'll get some needle drop on those plants and eventually it can kill the plant. And by making sure that you're watering them just enough and letting them dry out, conifers will remain really happy. They can be a little tricky to understand sometimes on a conifer what went wrong and when, because a conifer will look very beautiful and then a month later will be dropping its needles, and it's hard to figure out and pinpoint exactly when what occurred to cause that needle drop. The number one reason why we always see what's going wrong with the conifer is the watering issue. If you see a conifer starting to drop needles, it's often the fact that someone's overwatered it, not let it dry it out, and it's really just starting to affect the overall health of the conifer.
So definitely be conscious in that container garden for your drainage. We always talk about container gardening, but it's one of the most popular ways to grow Japanese maples and conifers. So be very conscious of the amount of water in your container and the drainage on that container. You definitely want to make sure you don't put that saucer around the bottom that can alleviate the water from coming out of there. You want to have drainage that's just excellent on the container. You don't want anything stopping it, and that oftentimes can be the reason why a plant didn't succeed, would be that saucer at the bottom of the container. So be very conscious of that, and your overall water amounts. You're going to have to check the water a little bit more in a planter too, especially if it's in a lot of sun. So it may be something you need to water more, but we need to make sure it's draining excellently as well.
Everyone loves dwarf conifers, but you need to remember that itty-bitty conifers may also mean that they need an itty-bitty amount of water. You don't want to keep overwatering a lot of these smaller dwarfs, and that's one of the #1 reasons people see a lot of decline in some of the dwarf conifers they're growing. So really pay attention to the water, because water plays such a critical role when growing conifers. There are some conifers, like a larix, that if you water it too much, it'll actually drop all of its needles and go deciduous for a period of time, almost like a dormancy, until it dries back out. And so that's one of the things to always keep in mind, is water with conifers. It's something that we can't reiterate enough, because we see it go wrong so much because people have given them too much water when really they should have just let it dry out. Another question we often get with conifers is, what do I fertilize my conifers with? Well, that varies per your conifer. Just like there's different fertilizations for a Japanese maple versus a really large maple like an Acer rubrum out in the landscape. Dwarf miniature conifers prefer to have something light fertilizers, like many of the Japanese maples. Whereas if you're fertilizing a large pine tree out in your landscape, you're going to want to fertilize that with the higher nitrogen.
So oftentimes with fertilizing conifers, less is more. You want to go lower on that nitrogen, especially with any of your variegated or miniature conifers. You're going to have a greater success rate when they're grown at a more moderate pace and not over pushed. If it's a tree that's going to have a smaller overall growth rate, it's going to be a more developed and more healthy tree, especially in those winter months, if it's not one that's forced to over push new growth. So you want to grow those at a more moderate pace, so be conscious of that when selecting a fertilizer. A lower overall nitrogen is definitely going to increase your winterization and oftentimes your success with your conifer growing. Hey, we hope you've got some confidence out of this video in growing conifers. We do a wide range of them here at Mr. Maple, so definitely be checking out our 10 at 10s, because we're often adding a ton of interesting conifer content. And let us know on our channel here if you're liking the conifer content. We've kind of increased it a little bit. We're about to leaf out here with the Japanese maples very soon, so we've been doing a little bit more conifer content before that for you. We actually have a whole playlist devoted to the conifer collector, so check that out. We're going to kind of treat that as almost a separate little show. So there's a whole playlist there on Mr. Maple of different topics, so definitely check that out.
We greatly appreciate you watching this video. If you do like this video and you like conifers, like this video, subscribe to this channel so you can be notified every time we put a new video out. And make sure you're subscribed to our weekly emails, because we're putting so much conifer content on that 10 at 10 email.
Hey, thanks. God bless.
And have a great day.